Well, greetings to all of our ocean colleagues and friends. My name is Richard Delaney. I'm the president of the Center for Coastal Studies in Massachusetts, and very honored to be the president of the board of directors of the Global Ocean Forum. And I'm very pleased, very excited to welcome all of you to the open event of COP26 Virtual Ocean Pavilion. We're really excited to finally launch this. We have lots of people on the line. It's a very exciting moment. So thanks for joining us. It's very good. We have a wonderful mix of speakers, a couple of short videos, some poetry, high-level panelists, lots of things to present to you in this first session. We will also, later in the session, provide the highlights as we launch the final volume of a series of recent reports entitled Assessing Progress on Oceans and Climate Action 2020-2021. And then at the end of the this 90-minute session, we will have Her Excellency Ms. Helen Agren, Ambassador for the Oceans from the Swedish Ministry of Foreign Affairs, officially declare us open and launch the Virtual Ocean Pavilion. So I would just like to offer a couple of brief remarks or reflections about this opening session, which is actually entitled Connecting All Our Incredible Blue Planet, Connecting All on Our Incredible Blue Planet. When you think about that, incredible blue planet, yes, that's obvious. You just only have to look at some of those dramatic photographs from space when the first astronauts went out. We're all blue. Connecting all, well, also, yes, we're inextricably connected in every way to the health of the oceans. And while we have explored outer space, we've not really explored the deep oceans as much as we should have, yet we know enough about the ocean climate nexus that should have been front and center in the climate discussions for many years in the past. Fortunately, through our collective efforts over the last several years to highlight that ocean climate connection at many of the previous COPs, we have now put it front and center. The Paris Climate Accord explicitly stated it. COP26 was named the Blue COP, and today we continue to go full force in promoting oceans at COP26. As much as we would all like to be there in person, and some of us will be fortunate enough to do that, this virtual ocean pavilion will present you with multiple opportunities to participate in and learn more about recent ocean-related activities. In fact, I know our numbers, and you'll see this shortly, are over 100 other ocean events that we hope you take advantage of through the virtual ocean platform. So let us get started. We have some great panelists. First, I would like to introduce Professor Carol Turley, who is Senior Scientist and Head of International Affairs at the Plymouth Marine Laboratory in the UK. Carol's research has focused on the ocean's biogeochemical cycles, and presently is really centered on ocean acidification, one of the major threats that we need to face and deal with facing ocean health, and is particularly ocean acidification as it relates to a warming planet. And importantly, in this regard, Carol has been the inspiration and very instrumental in creating the virtual ocean platform pavilion. And I would like to ask Carol to share more information about the pavilion now. Carol, it's yours.
Thank you very much, Richard. It's a real pleasure to be here at last, not only in Glasgow at COP26, but also on the opening of the virtual ocean pavilion. Now, I'm going to share my screen. The virtual ocean pavilion actually was conceived at the beginning of this year, but a few years before that, a few of us had this idea about why the ocean wasn't actually represented at the COPs. It didn't have its own pavilion, and yet it covered 70% of the surface of the planet, and So we felt it was underrepresented. It didn't essentially have its own voice, although at the Blue COP, there were so many events, blue ocean events around the pavilions in Madrid. And of course, then COVID came along, and it means that many of our friends and colleagues from all around the world may not be able to attend Glasgow in person, COP26 in person. So going virtual really gives us the chance to democratize the ocean so that everyone can join us, should they want to, of course. And it's really a way of bringing everyone together, not only our ocean friends, but also people that don't know about the ocean, how important it is in climate change, and how it provides so many things to us. It provides and influences our weather, our climate. It supplies food, livelihoods, and it cuts across all the major things in that the presidency of COP is looking at. So creating this virtual ocean pavilion has been an amazing undertaking, and it's been carried out by volunteers. So this is really quite something. So please bear that in mind, that there's been some extraordinary activities to make this happen, and we've all been learning on the way. I'd particularly like to mention Tekla Kaiser from Plymouth Marine Laboratory, and of course Miriam from the Global Ocean Forum, because they've done just amazing work behind the scenes. So hoping that you'll watch, you'll feel inspired, you'll connect, and you'll act. This first page is the registration page and the login page. And
Carol, sorry to interrupt. Sorry, Carol, sorry to interrupt. We can't quite see your screen at the moment. If you wouldn't mind trying to. Thank you.
Not quite sure how to do that. Can you see it now? Nope.
No, but please otherwise continue without the slides.
Okay. Well, those of you that have joined will already have seen the entrance to the virtual ocean pavilion, which was chosen for this wonderful wave shape. And then there's a wonderful lobby, and in the lobby you have the basically screens where you can go and see the COP26 ocean events that have been collected by the Ocean Tracker, by Ocean Conservancy. Absolutely wonderful job there. And then the pavilion, the actual events of the day and the events that are coming up. And on the screens, you can see the exhibition hall, the auditorium, and all the institutes and organizations that have contributed to the virtual ocean pavilion. And as you navigate, you can click on the exhibition hall, and within that, you actually come into the theatre, the auditorium, and you can see what's actually on the daily program and click to join that. In the exhibition hall, you have all the booths, virtual booths. I think there's over 25 of these. And so different organizations have filled these booths just that like they would in a normal COP. And you can actually get loads of information from these different booths. You can put them in your delegate's bag. And at the end, you can actually select which ones you want to bring home with you, email them to you, and it's all paperless, of course. And if you go to the lobby, you can get more information there as well. And there's a bit of fun in there. There's a treasure trove where you can go and find these little icons and answer questions. There's a question and answer as well. There's a photo booth, and there's interviews and videos. Some videos will be from around the made live during the COP and then transmitted on this. And of course, there's not just the live events that will be occurring via this platform, but also there'll be on-demand events as well. So you can catch up if you miss something. So it transcends timelines and time zones. And I truly hope it democratizes the ocean for all. So it's, Richard, I think it's back to you. I think it's an amazing undertaking, and I thank all the sponsors and all the people that have done this amazing work to bring this together. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Carol. And yes, and thanks to Miriam and Tekla and a whole group of people who, all of our sponsors and all of our partners, you'll see them all out there on the pavilion. There's an amazing amount of work that's going on, an amazing amount of information. Once you get on that site, and I urge you to, all during the conference for the next 12 days, there'll be some terrific things to explore. So thank you, Carol. Thank you for your inspiration to get us started down this path. Now I'd like to introduce Her Excellency, Ms. Helen Egren, Ambassador for the Oceans from the Swedish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Ms. Egren has extensive experience within the Swedish government, working on a wide range of issues such as the green economy, consumption and production issues, climate mitigation and adaptation. She's promoted innovative research and local investment programs. She brings all of that to bear on the oceans, and we're very pleased that she is the ambassador for the oceans. And I'd like to now turn over the platform to the ambassador for her opening remarks. Helen, please.
Thank you, Richard. I will now turn off my camera since my internet connection is not in the state that I would have wanted. Ladies and gentlemen, ocean and climate friends, it's really a great pleasure to be here with you this morning at the inauguration of the Virtual Ocean Pavilion at COP26. The ocean regulates temperature and weather conditions, provides us with food on our table, and holds invaluable ecosystems, and thus making it crucial to our very existence. As the world population grows, so too does the demand for food, energy, materials, and space. The ocean can contribute to these resources if it is managed sustainably. We cannot solve the climate crisis without a sustainably used, well-protected and healthy ocean with resilient marine ecosystems. And strengthening the nexus between the ocean, biodiversity and climate is a priority for the Swedish government, and it's important that this is an area of focus at COP26. We have heard from Richard and Carol also about the threats that greenhouse gas emission poses on the ocean. Continuous pollution, overfishing, and exploitation of coastal areas adds to the threats that climate change poses to the ocean. According to the last IPCC assessment report, if CO2 emissions continue to rise, natural carbon sinks are projected to be less effective in slowing down the accumulation of CO2 in the atmosphere and thus exacerbating the climate crisis. And while the ocean suffers massive damage from the global warming, it also plays a key role in helping to mitigate it. It contains around 50 times more carbon than the atmosphere and 20 times more than what is absorbed by plants and in the soil. The ocean is undoubtedly one of our most important allies in fighting climate change. And ocean-based action could deliver up to a fifth, some 21% or 11 gigatons of CO2 emissions of the annual greenhouse gas emission cuts that is needed to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. At the Swedish booth in the Virtual Ocean Pavilion, we present some of our climate and ocean policies and examples of projects that we support. The Virtual Ocean Pavilion is a collaborative effort of over 30 civil society organizations, including scientific institutions, foundations, countries, and intergovernmental organizations. And the organizers, co-sponsors, and collaborative partners have been active over many years. Inter alia to improve the scientific basis and raise awareness on the ocean and climate nexus, and to advocate for consideration of the effects of climate change on the ocean and on the solutions provided by the ocean and ocean-based sectors in mitigation and adaptation to climate change, and to advocate for inclusion of the ocean in decisions and conclusions of international meetings on multilateral environmental agreement and other forums, and to bring stakeholders together and improve assessment and follow-up of commitments and progress. And progress have been made within and outside of the UNFCCC process. For example, the UN Decade of Ocean Science has successfully been launched, and many activities have been kicked off nationally and internationally. Numerous international initiatives have been started to restore and protect ocean and coastal ecosystem, to reduce emissions from shipping, to develop ocean finance knowledge and mechanisms, and to develop monitoring and reporting mechanisms. Funding of ocean programs have increased, inter alia by the Green Climate Fund, GCF, and the GEF, and multilateral development banks, albeit from a very low level. Under the UNFCCC, we have seen increased efforts by the different work streams and bodies dealing with research and systematic observation, loss and damage, climate change adaptation, and technological cooperation and capacity building. At COP26, Sweden supports continued integration of relevant ocean perspectives in the bodies and work programs under the UNFCCC, and we hope that parties will be able to agree on a way to assess progress and share experiences in this endeavor. The Ocean and Climate Dialogue, convened by the SBSTA chair in December 2020, was a successful and good example of a way to do this. Yesterday, Sweden signed the third Because the Ocean Declaration together with 12 other countries that are committed to save our ocean and let it contribute to saving the climate. Sweden is committed to continued collaboration with all of you to integrate ocean in climate forums and climate into ocean forums. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador. And I agree, we do have many areas of progress, and our mission, of course, is to keep that progress moving forward urgently and quickly. So thank you for all of your efforts. It's terrific. At this point, the next set of remarks in our high-level panel will come from Mr. Kushal Raj, Acting Manager of Climate Change and Ocean Specialist with the Ministry of Economy in Fiji. And Mr. Raj will be presenting remarks on behalf of the Ocean Pathway Partnership. So, Mr. Raj, the pavilion is yours. I'm wondering if we have a connection with Mr. Raj.
Thank you. Sorry, Richard, I lost you there. Are you able to hear me now?
Oh, there, good. We can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will also try and turn my video off because I'm actually at the COP venue just to ensure there is no hindrance, and then I'll do the opening remarks on behalf of Fiji. Thank you once again. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Ocean Pathway Partnership and on behalf of Fiji, and of course expressing apologies from Ambassador Prasad this morning, who has to attend to an important meeting with the Prime Minister with the World Leaders Summit. But I will be saying the opening remarks for the Virtual Ocean Pavilion on behalf of Fiji. So Bula Vinaka, and a very good morning to you all. I would firstly like to welcome and thank the United States for re-signing and rejoining the fight against climate change, and for the significance that the current administration has shown towards ocean and climate advocacy, in particularly on its decision to co-lead in matters concerning the southern ocean marine protected areas, which is a testament towards a collaborative global effort in realizing a sustainable ocean. Additionally, I would like to offer my special thanks to the Global Ocean Forum for ensuring that the momentum and advocacy on this critical resource has been kept given the restrictions that we have had to face due to COVID-19. Your work is remarkable, especially through the annual publication of the Roadmap to Ocean and Climate Action Reports at the COP, raising action within the UNFCCC as we continue to address ocean issues in this forum. Ladies and gentlemen, Fiji is synonymous with pristine crystal clear waters and is a large ocean state with over 1.3 million square kilometers of the ocean under our jurisdiction. We are fully aware of the importance of our blue resource and have been at the forefront of global oceans management from its inception. We understand the importance of our marine ecosystems, not only from an economical perspective, but its unquantifiable value to our livelihoods, culture, and traditions. As I speak, numerous villages in Fiji are facing a threat of relocation from areas that they have called home for generations. The sentimental value of land for my people is beyond any tool or mechanism that can measure. 6 villages have already been relocated safely onto higher grounds, while more than 40 others must be moved. As a climate change regulator, the ocean is second to none, removing more than 25% of Earth's carbon emissions. The ocean continues to function as the last line of defense against the most devastating impacts of climate change. However, humanity has catalyzed natural systems with equilibrium being shifted. 1 in 100-year extreme sea level events are expected to become more frequent. Ladies and gentlemen, despite our trailblazing efforts in ocean advocacy and implementation work through our national ocean policy and updated nationally determined contributions, Fiji has been caught in a vicious cycle of destruction and rehabilitation due to the increasing intensity of natural disasters. The IPCC Working Group 1 report indicates that extreme events will only become more frequent, more intense, and more widespread. To curtail the effect of climate change, it is critical that the ocean agenda gains permanence within the UNFCCC processes. Despite its size, the health of the ocean is dependent on how we continue to use or abuse its resources. It is an indisputable fact that there cannot be a healthy planet without a healthy ocean, as also emphasized by Ambassador Helen. The ocean is widely recognized for its critical function as a carbon sink. However, this has human activities and the fact that we continue to emit more carbon than the oceans can possibly store. The seas are becoming increasingly acidic, causing widespread coral bleaching events. Economies such as Fiji and many within the Pacific and seas, which depend on sustainable use of our marine resources, stand on the cusp of collapse due to the significant impact of our fisheries and other marine resources. It is a difficult task to assign a figure on the value and contribution of approximately 1.5 trillion globally annually, with less than 1% of this figure being reinvested into the ocean economy. The COVID-19 pandemic may have been the first time in a decade that humanity's unrelenting obsession for continued expansion and advancement at the expense of our environment and its health subsidized. It's worrying that it took a global emergency for the world to ease its pressures on a finite and fast diminishing resource. When does the world wake up and see the challenge that my people and many millions continue to face at the front of climate change? I hope that through the Virtual Ocean Pavilion, we are able to showcase and progressive work that Fiji is doing in not only advancing the ocean action, but leading the way with implementation through policy and on-ground implementation. The pavilion sets the precedence for a COP that Fiji believes would finally deliver on an ocean outcome, building on the work from COP25 or the Blue COP. Achieving ocean health is a bold agenda, and no country, regardless of size and wealth, can hope to achieve this alone. Effective implementation can only be a simple top-down approach, but a rather more holistic perspective must be incorporated. I hope that the Virtual Ocean Pavilion is capable of reaching people across the globe, from small villages in Fiji to the cities of Scotland. The virtual platform allows an increasing social networking and public awareness and engagement using available resources such as digital exhibitions in various aquaria around the world to reach a wider audience. COP26 promises to be a conference unlike any before, and I expect progressive outcomes through 1CP26. Ladies and gentlemen, although I have made reference to Fiji's marine jurisdiction, the interconnectivity of the ocean makes each and every individual of this planet responsible for its protection. The future of our ocean rests collectively in the hands of the world. Fiji has spoken through our actions, and we hope that other countries would similarly invest into the protection and management of their oceans by building a sustainable ocean society which contributes towards the prosperity of their people, similarly to what Fiji has done. Our goal is for a sustainably managed ocean where its health and protection are paramount, and I hope the Virtual Ocean Pavilion for COP26 helps build a wave of momentum that helps lift our ocean and our climate into a more sustainable path. Thank you, and
Thank you, Mr. Raj, and thank you for a message from where some of the most urgent existential impacts of climate warming is happening in Fiji. We wish you well, and thank you for the message. All right, now I'd like to turn our attention slightly to a little different twist, and that's some poetry. I'm going to ask Samantha Jones, our next speaker, to offer her poem called Ocean Acidification. You know, and it's really makes me think of all the wonderful benefits and ecosystem services that the ocean gives us. But one of them is to inspire us with its beauty and its awe. And to capture that in poetry, also delivering a message as a scientist, is one of the things that Samantha Jones has done. So she's a scientist focusing her research on carbon cycling in the Canadian Arctic. She's also a writer and a poet, and she will read her poem entitled Ocean Acidification, which explores the challenges that a high CO2 world pose to the ocean ecosystems and human communities. So with that, we are happy to hear your reading. Samantha, please.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoy the poem, you can visit the OA Alliance booth in the exhibition space in the pavilion, and you can listen again, but also see some multimedia that accompanies the words. Ocean acidification. The other carbon problem is more insidious, is almost invisible to the naked eye, is microscopic at its onset, poking tiny holes in the base of the food chain, is propagating, is dismantling, is threatening to undermine systems in their entirety, is manifesting around river mouths and flaring up here and there in ocean waters at this time and that time, a seasonal state moving toward a permanence. Exacerbated by cold water, exacerbated by changes to the hydrologic cycle, exacerbated by stratification, exacerbated by indifference. Vinegar dissolving carbonate scale off of shower tiles, of faucets, of the inside of kettles without elbow grease. A little bit of acid goes a long way. A little bit of acid goes a long way. A little goes a long way. A little bit goes away. The other carbon problem is chewing away at the edges, creating an irregular halo, inhibiting, is pulling away molecule by molecule, is leaving a thinned legacy of vulnerability, or sometimes a resilience passed down to the next, if there is a next generation. Because at some point, all of the energy gets used up just trying to build this tiny body, a capsule for this tiny body, made slight by its own home. Some of us can adapt. Some of us have the ability to modify the chemistry of the water adjacent to our beings. Some of us will become a whisper. Some of us can only whisper about the tiny gaps we will leave that will grow and grow and grow until something collapses. We tried our best to warn you. The other problem is irregular, inhibiting, leaving a legacy of vulnerability. If there is a next generation, at some point, energy gets used up trying to build this tiny body, a capsule for this tiny body made slight by its own. Some of us adapt, some of us modify the water, our beings become a whisper, some of us can only whisper, we will leave, and until something collapses, we tried our best. Irregular, inhibiting, a legacy of vulnerability. If there is a next, this tiny body, a capsule made slight, some of us become a whisper, can only whisper, we will leave, this tiny body made slight, a whisper. Thank you so much for your attention.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's very inspiring. And, you know, we talk often about the nexus between science and climate, our oceans and climate, but we don't often, and you just made us very aware of the strong nexus between art and science and how powerful that message can be in all ways. So thank you. Very, very nicely done. Okay, now moving on to our next high-level speaker. I have the honor of introducing Dr. Atsushi Tsunami, who is the president of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation in Japan. Dr. Tsunami is also director of the CyREX Center, executive advisor to the president at the National Graduate Institute of Policy Studies, and serves in several cabinet-level office positions on various topics, including national space policy, space utilization promotion and innovation strategy, and also innovation strategies for security and safety and much more. Dr. Tsunami is a very busy man, and we're very pleased he took some time to be with us this morning. So the pavilion is yours. We look forward to your remarks, Dr. Tsunami. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard, for that introduction. Once again, I'm Atsushi Tsunami, president of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, joining you from Tokyo, Japan. Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, friends, welcome to the virtual Ocean Pavilion, the first ever at UNFCCC COP, allowing everyone from around the world to participate online in response to COVID-19 pandemic. We are at the critical juncture to make transformative change to achieve net zero emissions of greenhouse gases by 2050. Over 130 countries have already committed to net zero goals to achieve 1.5 degree target, including Japan. Now, nations need to drastically raise their ambitions with concrete plans in their nationally determined contributions and other mechanisms and actions by non-state actors are indispensable to reach this common goal of mankind. Within the UNFCCC, ocean issues have been treated in a fragmented manner, although the role of the ocean is vital in the climate system. There has been a revolution of scientific knowledge over the decades, and it is in this context that the ocean community has continued to raise its voice since COP15 in 2009. The publication of the special report on ocean and cryosphere by the IPCC in 2019 was a big turning point. The recent Nobel laureates in physics this year, the Dr. Shukuro Manabe, emphasizes that the understanding of complex physical systems is fundamental in combating climate change. It is scientifically shown that the ocean-based mitigations can contribute up to 21% of additional mitigation measures to reach the net zero society through promotion of offshore wind energy, zero emissions ships, carbon capture and sequestration, blue carbon, among other measures. However, these practical technologies has to be embedded in concrete programs. One way of doing this is to set up an official process addressing ocean and climate change within the UNFCCC. We recommend that as a legacy of the Blue COP in 2018, presided over by the Chilean government, the Sub-Saharan and climate change dialogue should be institutionalized within the UNFCCC as a recurrent dialogue. We hope that this decision will be taken at COP26. One of the ocean-based solutions that the OPRI, the Ocean Policy Research Institute at the Sasaka Peace Foundation, is studying is blue carbon. In Japan, a blue carbon credit system has started. The Japan Blue Economy Association plays a major role in the cooperation of this scheme, with which we are aiming to scale up activities for restoration and conservation of marine and coastal ecosystems, including seaweed. The participation by the private sector is crucial in going beyond pilot activities throughout the country in the long run. This will contribute not only to climate change mitigation, but also to improving the resilience of the coastal areas. The world has seen so many extreme weather events and disasters in recent years, and the damages are devastating. There should be much more efforts and funding available for adaptation and inclusive development. Overall, more large-scale mobilization of funds is needed to promote such ocean-based solutions. According to Ocean Policy Research Institute's estimate, project for ocean-based climate action or attract less than 3% of total funding from multilateral development banks and global climate funds such as the Global Environment Facility and Green Climate Fund. We need to change this by facilitating financing where it is needed. The effects of climate change are also affecting national security policies. Changes in the natural environment due to climate change, such as rising sea levels and desertification, are bringing about new security issues, such as conflicts over resources and population movements. It is important to understand cascading and compounding events caused by climate change in relation to national security and develop appropriate response measures. science-based policies are needed for all aspects of the environment, economy, and security. Finally, I hope that the VOP, a Virtual Ocean Pavilion, will serve as a catalyst to expand the circle of ocean community and promote the implementation of ocean-based solutions. We look forward to continuing to our work in the UNFCCC and beyond with our partners to bring about real changes. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Dr. Tsunami, for a very clear and very powerful statement of the challenges we face and the actions we have to achieve at COP and beyond. So thank you very much for all your support and work in that regard.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to move to our next panelist and hear some remarks from Mr. Christophe Serug, Director General of the Nausicaa Centre National de la Mer in France. Mr. Serug has held numerous executive positions in both the public and private sectors, including having served as an elected official in Burgundy for 30 years, which is actually quite an achievement these days. So I'm very pleased to ask Mr. Serug for some comments. No audio. Okay, we're having a little bit of trouble. This worked very nicely when we did our drive run practice yesterday. Miriam, you had take a few seconds and see if you can correct that problem. Do you want to try it one more time?
Hello, my name is Christophe Serug. I'm the General Manager of Nausicaa, the National Sea Centre located in Boulogne-sur-Mer. Since its opening in 1991, Nausicaa has chosen to focus on the relationship between man and the sea. After 30 years of existence, it is clear that human activities are responsible for climate change, which is accelerating at a worrying rate. The COP26, which is opening in Glasgow, as well as the next One Ocean Summit, which will be held in Brest at the beginning of 2022, are opportunities to recall the essential role played by aquariums and oceanographic centers around the world in the service of the oceans and seafloor of the planet. Indeed, as aquariums, we help to raise awareness among the millions of people who visit our establishments every year. We make them discover the resources and wonders of the underwater world. We alert them daily to their extreme vulnerability, particularly to the effects of global warming. The aquariums also support research and work with associations around the world to improve knowledge of ecosystem and preserve species, some of which we have the last specimens thus playing a conservation role. Because climate change is leading to visible changes in the natural environment, particularly in the 5 oceans, Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, Arctic, and Southern, which, as everyone here knows, are linked and form a single world ocean covering 71% of the planet. Because our teams of passionate experts contribute every day to advancing the understanding and popularization of the marine world, aquariums are essential players, and we are working with you all for a better world. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those remarks, Mr. Saru, and for all the work that Nausicaa does in the very important role of educating the general public and bringing awareness of oceans to so many people over so many years. Very much appreciated. Thank you. Now I would like to I'd like to introduce our next filmmaker, Michael Snyder. You will be treated to a very exciting trailer of an award-winning documentary he has produced. Michael Snyder is a filmmaker and photographer, but he takes us into the polar night with this film entitled Into the Dark, which follows a team of scientists examining how the world's most hardy sea creatures survive the polar night. And that polar night is the Arctic months of darkness, and how climate change will affect this light-sensitive habitat. The team carried out their investigations aboard the research vessel Elmer Hannon while in complete darkness. And as you can imagine, that poses some very challenging conditions. I think you'll find the trailer really enticing. And I will assure you right now at the outset that the film in its entirety will be viewed from the Virtual Ocean Pavilion on-demand video tab. And we'll see more about that later. So at this point, please show the trailer.
The Arctic is changing really fast, faster than anywhere on the planet. In my lifetime, the Arctic has gone from this massive frozen piece of ice to what is likely to be a seasonally open ocean. We used to have winters here with a strong ice cover that would keep the ocean below both cold and dark. With a reduced ice cover, there will be more light penetrating into the ocean. How is that affecting the ecosystem?
50% of the oxygen that we breathe is from microscopic algae in the world oceans. Without those key groups, there will be no life. Simple as that.
We have 600 kilometers up to the North Pole. We will be out in rough seas. We will be doing this in complete darkness. Once we are out there and the lights are turned off, then we are basically on our own. You see cities, roads, wherever humans are present, we surround ourselves with light. Shut down all the lights now. Darkness is the real unknown, and I'm curious to see what's inside. The Arctic is changing really fast.
Well, I told you it'd be exciting, and it's just one more good reason to stay tuned and explore our Virtual Ocean Pavilion. There are a number of videos of equal quality that you can get on demand at your leisure. So now moving to our next speaker, and the speaker represents a very important voice in these climate discussions, and that's the perspective of youth on climate change in the oceans. and it will be presented by Mr. Jack Laverick. Jack is the founding member of Youth for Oceans Forum and is a marine scientist himself. He has been a consulting scientist for his 4 children's books. He has authored over 20 papers, and Jack has recently joined the faculty right here in Glasgow at the University of Strathclyde, from which he continues his research interest in the Arctic, the Atlantic Ocean, and South Africa. Jack, please, we're anxious to hear your comments and your perspective. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Richard, and hi to everybody else. I'm going to share some of my thoughts and go a little out of my comfort zone by not talking so much about the science, but just being a bit more personal as a member of the youth of today. 8 weeks ago, I became a dad. I'm 28, and when we get to 2050, my son will be the same age. There's nothing like impending parenthood to make you think about your childhood and where we've been heading. I grew up in a landlocked part of the UK, but despite this, I've always loved the ocean. I used to go and visit my great-grandfather on the coast, where I'd go rock pooling and look for seals. My parents would tell me about the amazing things in the ocean, and when I was sick, I would watch Blue Planet. I had lots of kids, but I wanted to grow up to be a marine biologist. I worked hard in school, and I achieved my dream. I worked my summers and scuba dived on my first coral reef with an NGO when I was 18, but I couldn't help shake a sense of disappointment. I didn't see a single shark, and the coral cover was low. I have since seen good coral reefs. I've also seen others, which are nothing like I was told about as a child. I remember meeting a retired couple on a dive boat who were returning to the location of their honeymoon. They told me how those reefs were a shadow of their former selves, and I could see the damage repeated extreme weather events had done to the ecosystem over time. When I came to celebrate getting my PhD studying coral reefs, of course I decided to mark it with a diving trip. Again, my plans were slightly too late. I arrived just after a mass bleaching event, which killed stretches of the reef. I now work on mathematical models of Arctic ecosystems and their fisheries based on data collected from the real world. Every day, I'm faced with model predictions showing retreating sea ice under climate change and how this will impact on livelihoods through fishing. I also see the maths in front of me showing how reorganizing the food web without ice means losing the species which depend on it, such as seals and polar bears. I then think about what I will tell my child when they grow up. I was a 1-year-old when the first COP was held in Berlin. My childhood is filled with stories of the wonders of nature, which inspired my choice of career. Do you know what's happened since I was a baby learning to walk? The amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere from fossil fuels has doubled. It's doubled. And that doesn't even include other more damaging greenhouse gases either. I'm only 2 years out of school, and the environment has been under assault for the whole time. Do I tell my son amazing stories of whales, polar bears, coral reefs, huge schools of fish, and mysterious unknown places in the deep? Or do we say these things used to exist because the reefs are now bleached and covered in seaweed, the icebergs all melted and the polar bears starved? We ate all the fish and replaced them with plastic. I'm here to offer a young person's view, a young person's sense of ambition. You want to know what I think? We need to go harder and faster on climate issues. Net zero by 2050 means 28 more years of causing damage. It means my lifetime again of adding emissions into the atmosphere. We're seeing the damaging effects of climate change throughout the world now. I don't understand why we think 3 decades more of damage is sold as ambitious. It's down to us adults now to transform things over the next 10 years. If we only aim to inspire young people to live a different future, we will have to wait another 20 years for them to start. I've seen evidence of how much things have degraded during my youth. I'm not sure I could bear the same for my child's. The best thing we can do is to avoid producing greenhouse gases wherever possible. The less we enter the atmosphere, the less damage we cause. Then we need to talk about the cleanup. Carbon sequestration needs to be seen as a tool to clean up the pollution we've already released. As long as we think of these two things in terms of balancing emissions, we are talking damage limitation. We can think grander than that. I want my son by 2050 to be in a world which is better, healthier than the one we have today. You know what? Time has marched on. I would like my retirement to be in a better world. Those with the know-how and the money are desperately needed to engage in the world's largest cleanup operation. Don't be afraid to act on your own and smash through targets. Show the rest of the world it's possible to fix this, and those who hesitate may change their minds. That's the kind of climate action which would get me excited. The ocean has to be central to all of this. Though I've spoken about the marine disappointments in my life so far, I still love the ocean. There are still amazing ecosystems which function, providing us with food, shelter, oxygen, and for me, above all of this, a sense of wonder. I have been lucky enough to see these two. The ocean has an amazing capacity to regenerate. Despite literally burning through whales for a time, curbs and whaling have led to increases in populations. Though corals bleach, if it's for a short time, they do recover and live on. Often all that is needed for recovery to happen is for us to stop damaging the ecosystems. For those which are more stubbornly scarred, there are committed people who are working towards ecosystem restoration, towards repairing our damaging past. The benefits of a healthy ocean should not be underestimated. Seagrass meadows, mangrove forests are among some of the most effective carbon sinks, locking material in marine sediments. The sheer volume of water in the world's oceans has also acted as a buffer to CO2 emissions through direct absorption and has redistributed heat around the world's weather systems through its currents. Glasgow would not have the climate we enjoy up here without the ocean. For those of you who came today, I'm excited for what you get to learn about the ocean and how we can work with it to tackle climate change. There are people here in the Virtual Ocean Pavilion who are knowledgeable and enthusiastic about this mission, and that will be the key to a better future for all of us. In 28 years, let's be talking about the progress we've made in repairing our natural capital, in rejuvenating the oceans, rather than having finally agreed to stop making things worse.
Jack, thank you very, very much. Speaking as a scientist is important, and we know science is the basis for all of this, but speaking from the heart, as you did, resonates with all of us. We all have special relationships with the ocean, and we're all inspired by it, but we need to convey that to our colleagues and our neighbors and our friends and our decision makers, and you've done it so well. Please don't ever hesitate to spread that message, because that's a powerful one, and we thank you for it very, very much. Good. All right. So I just want to remind people, and you've been reminded also in the chat room, we will have, after this next short video, a time for an interactive session, some questions. Our speakers have been offering some challenging and some stimulating thoughts. I'm sure they've created some questions that you'd like to follow up on. So please ask any questions you want in the chat room. We'll try to get through as many as possible during the time after this next video. So the next video, in fact, is also inspiring. This is the work that's being done by the United Kingdom's Environmental Agency. The video is called Rememory. It's an ambitious an ambitious cross-government restoration initiative that aims to reverse centuries of decline of salt marshes, seagrass meadows, and oyster reefs, and at the same time highlight the multiple benefits for people and nature. The initiative is combining the collective resource and expertise across the relevant UK government departments in partnership with others, such as environmental NGOs and industry, to significantly increase the UK's blue carbon resilience. So you'll be pleased to see this next short video. Please start the video.
If you had a renewable resource that provided food now and for the future, that naturally filtered pollutants from the water, looked after your physical and mental well-being, protected you from flooding, and soaked up carbon from the atmosphere, wouldn't you want to protect it and restore even more of this resource for you and future generations? Yet even though England's estuarine and coastal habitats are among our most valuable natural assets, they have been in steady and catastrophic decline. 85% of salt marshes and 95% of our native oyster reefs have already disappeared. And seagrass meadows have been lost from nearly half the areas where they once flourished. That's why an ambitious initiative has been set up to protect and restore estuarine and coastal habitats. It's called Rememory, and it stands for Restoring Seagrass Meadows, Salt Marshes, and Oyster Reefs. It aims to restore at least 15% of England's marine habitats and surrounding landscapes by 2043 for the benefit of people and nature. That means providing national leadership and joined-up strategic planning to support local projects all around our shores, from reseeding seagrass meadows and oyster reefs to major coastal adaptation projects that will protect communities from the threat of rising seas. By pooling resources, the government agencies, environmental organisations and academics signed up to Rememory have been able to create a coastal roadmap for a more sustainable future, pinpointing key habitat restoration opportunities that will in turn help local communities to prosper. And this is just the beginning. More Rememory partnerships are needed with people living around the coast, scientists, environmental groups, industry and project funders, backed by far-sighted policies and streamlined legislation. It's a unique opportunity to restore ecosystems that have supported us for thousands of years and ensure a truly sustainable future.
Yeah, I like the message of needing to have multidisciplinary, cross-sectoral approaches to solving problems, as this initiative is doing. It's going to take all of us to save the ocean, and in many perspectives. So good luck in that project, UK. Sounds very exciting and very worthy. And salt marshes are at that junction between ocean, land, sea junction, and they're so important. So thank you now to all of our panelists. I believe we've had a chance to hear from everyone, and I like your thoughtful and stimulating remarks, but I'd like to open up the session to all of our audience so we can have some back and forth and follow up on any of the points that we've had. So I do have one follow-up I'd like to start with to Samantha. How does your expertise as a scientist inform your poetry? I know it's in there, but exactly how does that art and science nexus be used to inspire change?
Thank you so much for the question. I appreciate it. I think at the big picture level, my experience as a geoscientist, as a geologist, and now working as a geographer in the coastal ocean and coastal environments really informs the topics that I like to talk about in my artistic practice. So thinking about the things I like to explore, but also water and the environment reappear in lots of my poetry, even when it's not specifically science poetry. And then when I'm writing a particular piece, like the one I read today, I like to think about how the arrangement of the words on the page or the narrative that I'm telling can mimic or perform a process or a phenomena. So if you get a chance to check out the visuals that go with this poem, you'll see that the text is arranged in a very particular way to mimic the process of ocean acidification and the impacts that it has. And I think in terms of inspiring change, art really has that potential to make connection. There's the storytelling aspect, which can make the message memorable. And then for myself at the individual level, I find that I leave a writing session feeling inspired. I feel creative and invigorated, and that really encourages me to keep going with both my art and my science.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And Jack, if I may turn to you for a moment, I have been able to teach courses at the college level for quite a few years now on ocean policy, water policy, and I find myself as I speak to the students as a scientist about the fate of the ocean and the serious problems. I get a sense that I'm really discouraging them and scaring them to some degree, and I often just with the facts, because they are scary, and I find myself trying to, wait a minute, how do I instill some hope? We need a generation that's hopeful, that will be activists. How do you handle that dynamic with your students?
Right, it's a very difficult balance to strike, and I think that we're lucky in some ways that in the public discourse we have got that whole spectrum of approaches represented. If there are people out there that are a bit overly negative and make you turn off, then you'll always be able to find an optimist that instead gives you the different flavor of the information that you're receiving. I'm not that much older than some of the people that I teach or talk to. And actually I work in a maths department. So for the most of the time, it's just statistics. But when talking about the environment and the future, I think young people actually get it. I think we've got this message. We have youth movements. There are activists and protesters all over the place. And I think what's actually disheartening and frustrating isn't necessarily hearing that information. It's about hearing that information and knowing that what we need to do is act now, and they're not yet in a position of power to do it. If you allowed them to run the show, they want to start doing things differently. So I am quite strongly of the opinion that it's not actually talking to people who are perhaps 10 years old or something and are still going to wait another decade or two before they get to my position at the beginning of their career. We actually need to be speaking to the people who are currently the power players, because it's so much easier and so much cheaper and effective to make these interventions early. So we're all there screaming out for stuff to be done now. So I guess my response is, I'm not so worried about how the young people are feeling or how we're processing this. What I'm worried about is how people that are currently around and can make some of these changes, how they're receiving it and what they're thinking. And I think that sometimes you just need to break through, because for some reason there doesn't seem to be quite that same amount of activism coming through from people who are, say, in their 40s as the people who are teenagers right now.
Yeah, very good, very interesting. Yeah, I have found that at my Center for Coastal Studies, and we do ocean research, education, and public policy, we have a limited amount of resources, and we've really tried to focus on advanced graduate students as our colleagues, knowing that they will be the people who will hopefully quickly be in positions of power, I should say, to make the changes you just alluded to. Yes, we need to make sure every young elementary school student is aware and well versed in the science, but we almost don't have that luxury anymore. We need change, and we need it fast. And I totally agree with you. Okay. Yes, I think there are a couple questions from the floor. Tekla, would you address one?
Yes, of course. I'll start with the first question, and it's a question to all panelists, and thank you for those posing questions online. What would be your top outcome for the ocean at COP26? Thank you.
Oh, very good. Right to the heart of the matter. Thank you for that question. Carol, can I start with you?
Well, top of my list would be actually countries coming here and producing the most fantastic nationally determined contributions that brings us on track to meet the Paris Agreement of warming no more than 1.5 degrees centigrade. That would be wonderful for the ocean and for every part of the planet.
Yes, agreed. Ambassador, your top outcome?
I would absolutely agree with Carol. Halting emissions now is what is needed, and ambitious goals backed up with national policies, phasing out of fossil subsidies, etc., are the most investments in new technologies, and deep transformation of societies. That is what is needed. But that is not what's being negotiated here. So it's also a matter of what can a meeting like this deliver. And of course, it has to deliver on the ambition level, but then it's up to each and all of the countries present here and all the stakeholders to go back from Glasgow, do their homework, and get things done.
Yeah, we all agree. Action is the key word these days. We need action, and you're absolutely right. Thank you, Ambassador. Samantha, would you like to offer your biggest wish for an outcome of COP26?
I don't have too much to add to that. I really agree with those comments, and especially inspiring folks to try to keep to that 1.5 degree warming. I think it's very important to try to mitigate as much as we can, especially based on the recent IPCC report. So I'll leave it at that.
Yep, good. We're with you. And Jack, how about yourself? Any number one outcome on your wish list?
I can completely echo what's been said. 1.5 would be amazing because it just is so widespread as a permeating effect through the rest of the planet. But I would, I guess, also add to this that we said at the beginning how the ocean hasn't really had a voice. It isn't represented by government and these sorts of things. The virtual ocean pavilion is a great sign that finally the ocean may be considered a bit more during the COP process than it has in the past. And so beyond negotiating for lower carbon emissions and things, if the people who are here gathering in Glasgow over the next 2 weeks can leave with a sense that the ocean is there as a multiplier and it can help, and it's not just that we do these small things on the land, which makes a small portion of the planet, and that's where we have to do all these actions. If we realize there's so much more space, so many more organisms, systems, interacting things going on, and the ocean can be there to really help make progress, then I think that would be a fantastic realization as well, and to include it in the planning.
Great. Yep. I think we're all in agreement, and action is a key part of it. Tekla, may I ask, is there another question from the floor that you can share with us?
Yes, of course. Thank you. We've got a question from David Johnson. He's saying, Rememory sounds great. His experience with UK salt marshes has highlighted issues with sediment budgets and constraints to making space for natural systems to realign. And his question is whether there are some real resources to help make this happen. And there is another question, if it's okay to put two to you at the same time. And the other question is, do we need better ocean observations in order to monitor and adapt? Are there gaps? Is capacity building needed? And is there funding to do this on an ocean-wide scale? Thank you.
Well, thank you, David, for going right to the heart of the matter. We need resources to take actions, and those are often missing. And Carol, may I turn to you? Do you have somewhere you can offer in response to David's question about resources to make the Rememory initiative a reality?
In terms of ocean observations, as a scientist, I know how important they are, but also even in developed countries, these are often carried out piecemeal with short-term funding that the scientists are able to cobble together to continue the long-term observations of the ocean. But there are large stretches of the ocean where there are very, very few observations, and we need to reach out to them, train them, give them the capacity to measure the oceans themselves, because after all, you can't adapt to the changes that will happen, even if we meet 1.5, because we're seeing changes now. So we need to measure in order to manage. And there are many countries, especially in developing countries, that don't have this capacity to do so. So, you know, it's like we need to put their fire alarms in order to know when to take action. And those fire alarms, those observations aren't actually in many places of the ocean at the moment. And those observations need to be freely available to everyone, to every nation. So we really need to democratize ocean observations and reach out to everyone.
Yep, good, thank you. Global problem requires a global coordinated response at a very high level, very urgently. Thank you. Okay, well, I appreciate the questions and the responses. I think we need to move on. We have to be mindful of our time allotment, and we do have the next segment of the webinar today, which is actually the launching of the latest version of ROCA, which is Roadmap to Ocean and Climate Action Report. And this is the final volume of a series of annual reports on various areas of the ocean and climate nexus. And this last one is entitled Assessing Progress on Oceans and Climate Action 2020 and 2021. And we thank a large number of authors and co-contributors to this. It's a big project. It has been led by Dr. Mario Veros, and we thank her for her excellent work. Unfortunately, she's in transit right now and cannot join us in person, but she has provided a very short couple of slides that we can use, and I'll present on her behalf. It gives the highlights. So, yes, thank you. So there you see it. And by the way, this will be available on our virtual ocean platform going forward. Big effort, lots of co-sponsors. If we can go right to the next slide, please. The significance of the report is that, yes, as I just said, multiple organizations and authors involved. So we have a blending of resources and a multidisciplinary effect. The common aim was to strengthen the recognition of the importance of the ocean in the climate change process. That seems to be our common theme throughout all of this. And most importantly, to increase the ambition of ocean climate action. And so since 2016, ROCA has provided these updates on a regular basis. I won't read all of those topics, but it initially focused on progress that was being made within and outside of the UNFCCC on the Ocean Climate Action Networks. It's brought together new scientific findings, highlighted remaining knowledge gaps. It has made demonstrated and cataloged progress with incorporating the oceans into the NDCs, and that has been pretty significant. And then all of the other topics, some of which we've already talked about today. But this year's report also provides an update on the ocean, climate change, and COVID-19, and a summary of the achievements of ROCA initiative and the way forward. So a lot of information in these reports. Could I go to the next slide, please? And again, I hope you can read all this. It's fairly small print, but key to many, well, 8 or 9 or 10 key messages. Obviously, we know the ocean climate action is urgently needed now in the face of increasing environmental deterioration. Good news is much progress has been made in this area. It's documented in some detail in this report. Increasingly, countries are including this topic on this focus on ocean climate solutions in their nationally determined commitments. and we hope there will be many, many more at COP26. There is some progress being made on decarbonizing shipping, on advancing renewable energy, ocean-based energy, and innovating in capacity development, slow but surely, and we're starting to see that move forward. Progress in adaptation is being made, but much more is required, and we need to create a comprehensive network of what we call climate-smart marine protected areas, and integrate that into our marine spatial planning efforts, which provide a great platform for climate adaptation strategies. International law needs to become part of the tools for this, that's clear, and that's a major challenge. We know there are still big knowledge gaps in ocean science, and with the upcoming decade of science, ocean science, we hope to begin to fill some of those. We need resources to be able to get into the more remote, deep areas, but absolutely essential. And we all know how critical science-informed decision-making is. The blue economy is a really intriguing concept that focuses on the economic aspects of the ocean and how to do it sustainably. And I know a number of countries and regions, including mine here in Cape Cod in Massachusetts, have adopted the blue economy as the major economic paradigm or strategy for their area going forward. And on a human note, the fact that we have 3.7 million people internally displaced by world disasters, many of them environmental disasters, many of those caused by are impacted by climate change impacts like sea level rise, salinization, ocean acidification, loss of biodiversity, and so forth. Those numbers are staggering, and the projections are that will only become more tragic as we move forward with, if in fact we do not take urgent action to mitigate this. And then there's the big overriding issue of finances and the equity involved in the gap between what we need, what's identified for work, and funding provided. That will be a big topic coming up at COP26, and we hope that can be resolved by our presidents and ambassadors in the deliberations coming up. So bottom line, overall, there is a need to raise ambition on ocean action, both globally and nationally. Commitments on finance and concrete ocean climate action, including both adaptation and mitigation, are needed internationally. We've said that to each other before, but this report boldly states it, underlines it, documents it, and only adds to the urgency of the action that we all need to help make happen coming up in COP. So thank you, Mario, and the numerous authors. I think one more slide lists some of them. They're far too numerous to read, but I do want to say at this point and point out the photograph is of our dear friend and colleague Professor Biljana Sissensane, who, as you all know, if those of you who are lucky enough to know her and befriend her, and she was a friend of all of ours, and she was a huge friend of the oceans. She was a staunch advocate for ocean action within the climate community. So this report is dedicated to her, and we lost her just a year ago, September, but all of us will carry on her work and her legacy for as long as we possibly can. So thank you, Biljana. Thank you to the authors. Thank you to Mario. And now let's go to, oh, and there's, yes, thank you. There's the last slide with information how you can download it. It will be featured at a couple of the reports at the Ocean Pavilion coming up. And there, one more reason to stay tuned to the virtual Ocean Pavilion during the next several days. And with that now as our last note, I would like to turn back to Ambassador Egren to officially declare the virtual Ocean Pavilion open. The big moment has come. Ambassador, launch us, please.
Thank you, Richard. It is a great pleasure to cooperate with colleagues from all parts of the world, linked together by our one and only ocean. We have joined forces to highlight again and again that the ocean is the flip side of the climate change coin. The Virtual Ocean Pavilion is a result of a unique and collaborative effort coordinated by the Global Ocean Forum, the Plymouth Marine Laboratory, the Ocean Policy Research Institute of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, the Oceano Azul Foundation, and the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO. Together with some 30 collaborating partners and sponsors, the Virtual Ocean Pavilion has been put together to bring the ocean into COP26, but also to bring the ocean and climate discussion at the COP26 to broader stakeholder groups and people around the world that are not here in Glasgow. I would like to express my sincere appreciation for your passion and hard work. And I hereby declare the Virtual Ocean Pavilion open. And I hope that you will learn, enjoy, and engage in the many activities provided by the platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Tekla. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you so many people for making this possible. And let me thank all of our audience and panelists in advance for all the hard work we are about to undertake at COP26. This is the first big opportunity for us to go to work for oceans, hopefully produce great action results at COP26. So good luck, good work, and please utilize the Virtual Ocean Pavilion as a great tool to help you work your way through COP and participate in that movement. So with this, I will close our session. Thank you again. Good evening.